become beautiful eternal souls having a messy but gorgeous human experience. I've got a treat for you today. We're here with Rick Diamond. Hello, Rick.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you for this opportunity and this invitation.
Everyone listening, you're gonna love it. Rick is a story healer, helping you uncover the narratives that run your life and making them conscious so you're able to change it. I am an uncultured swine and I want everyone to get the most value, so we're just gonna jump in.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm ready when you are.
Dr. Rick. I'm broken. I'm not enough. My life is not working out and everything is really against me. Help me out.
So in a moment like that, when a client meets with me, whether they're here in Austin, Texas, where I live, or all over the world, I have clients all over the world. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy to get to do this because this is a universal experience. When someone comes and says, something's broken, something's not right, something's not working, we do a process where, first of all, we try and find a question. Is there a question that's bothering you, right? What's wrong with me? Or why can't I figure this out? Or why haven't I figured this out yet? And we sit with the question for a while. And then when we've fleshed out the question and looked at it, then I say, what is the belief that you have that's underneath the question? Because when we get to the belief that somebody has that's under the question, then we can find what I call, and what you and I were just talking about, the story that is a whole way of seeing everything that then upholds that belief. So if somebody came in and said, what's wrong with me? I'm such a mess. I'm a disaster. I don't know what I'm doing. I would say, okay, so what's the question? I don't know. The question is, do I need to make a different decision about work or relationships? And I say, what is the belief? And if they get to, the belief is there's something wrong with me, then that's where we begin. If the belief is I should be better, that's where we begin. All of those things did not come from nowhere. They came from our programming, and they came from our training, and they came from our culture, and they came from religion, and they came from our parents, and they came from the whole world around us, and they came from advertising. So then we go on a hunt and we go find what the story is and where it came from.
You pointed at it. We already know the question because we ask it ourselves. Why doesn't this work out? Why can't I get this right? We repeat the story in our head. So if we notice these thoughts occurring, we look for a belief, you said. Okay, let's say I'm not good enough. That is a very common. And what helped me a lot is to realize, okay, how come every person in the world, whether they're in Texas or in Europe, how come they have the same thought? Is it even their thought?
Thank you. Yes. We're all having the same thought or some different version of the same thought. It must be a program that we are all part of. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody comes in and says, there's something wrong with me, what's wrong with me? If we can get to the belief, it may be something as simple as the belief is, I should be better, or I should do something different, or I should be somewhere else. I have lots of clients who say by now, or I should be farther along, or I should be in a better relationship, or I should be in a better whatever. That's also part of the programming, because
I've never told myself that, never ever.
Me either, of course not. But there's no child just playing, having fun, rolling around on the ground with toys or reading or coloring that's saying, I should do a better job on this. They're just in their own creative process. They're just in their joy. They're just in their feelings. They're just in their body. And then something begins to tell them, whether it's school or parents or in-laws or coaches or the system or religion or whatever, something begins to tell them, no, how you are is not okay. You should be something else. And that's the tricky one to get at because it's been there so long and we've been told it so many times, we think it's the truth.
But then the client might say, but it's true. It's true I don't have enough money. It's true I don't have the relationship. It's true I'm not enough. It's not just a belief. It's fact. You want to look at my bank statement.
Right. So how do we get somebody to see that that belief is what I call a story? Like, how do we encourage someone to see that the thing that they've been thinking forever and forever about themselves is actually not the truth? But to your point, totally accurately, they will say, no, it is the truth. I can prove it because this is what my parents have told me, and this is what the world tells me, and this is what my bank account says, and this is what I understand on social media, and this is what advertiser tells me, and this is what the pastor told me. I get it. How does someone know that something is a belief versus something is true? They will, as long as possible, inside of all of us, there are what I call gatekeepers. There are little guardians that run up and say, no, it's the truth because, it's the truth because, it's the truth because. And the reason is because there's a part of us that doesn't want to change. It's scared to change because change will mean that we're growing. And there's a part of us that's scared to grow. There's a part of us that's scared to be free. And that's the part that says, no, I can prove it to you. I can prove it to you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also maybe the same point, but worded differently. Who am I without that story? Because we've had these thoughts so many, decades. And we identify with them. We think they're our identity. So if this is gone, who am I?
Right.
And that is scary.
It's very scary because if our whole sense of our identity is tied up in this thing that we've been feeling and this thing that we've been telling ourselves and this thing that everybody else has told us as well all this time, what would it even look like to imagine a different possibility? So what I do with people is say, when we're doing this story healing, what I do is say, if somebody says, I can't imagine who I would be without this, what I do is say, what are the things and where are they in your life, the things that have given you joy? And their immediate response is often, oh, nothing. Everything's terrible. I'm so sad, which I get, especially if, I've been in depression before. I've been in difficult times in my life before. Everybody's felt that. And some of what happens when we block joy is that we don't want to allow ourselves to feel something that feels positive and affirming of something deep within us. That's the true nature of who we really, really are. And we want to push it away because, again, it might mean that we're going to evolve and grow. And I say, okay, well, here's your assignment. Go find something in your life that is purely just for you, that gives you joy, that gives you a sense of meaning, it doesn't have to be your whole universe. It doesn't have to, am I supposed to go get a new job? No. Just, and they come back and it turns out that they'll say, it was a cup of tea in the sunset. I actually felt okay in my own skin. I actually slowed down enough to just feel in my body. And then what we can do is to say, does the belief, the story, give you joy? And that becomes a really important kind of that's a test for the story. Does the story give you joy?
Yeah.
Not everything that's meaningful is going to give us joy. Some things that are meaningful are going to give us things to struggle with, like hard work, or maybe a big project, or maybe something that we really, really feel strongly about that takes some effort. But if everything that we believe, layer upon layer upon layer, is just drudgery and sadness and it's exhaustion, that can't be the truth about who we are. It just can't be. I don't think. If somebody wanted to say, nope, that's really the truth about who I am, then that story healing may not be their cup of tea, which is okay. Yeah.
The way I compare it as well.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, and when you wake up, just like you put on your clothing, you put on you. Your personality, your likes, your dislikes, your story. I'm good enough, not bad enough, I don't have enough money. You put it on. And it happens so quickly. You open your eyes and you are you. You are in that story.
Wow.
And for me, what I always do in the morning, it's like, okay, who am I going to be today? Am I going to just mindlessly slip into that story? Or I'm just going to be present and choose? And let me tell you, damn, it is hard to stay conscious sometimes.
So your tool that you're talking about is mindfulness, what Buddhists call mindfulness, this idea of I'm going to be present and aware of the choice that I'm making about the story, the self, the persona that I'm going to wear and believe as I move into the world. That moment that you're talking about, which is so great, is choice. It is the willingness to say, I'm the one who is choosing how I want to show up today.
Yeah. And it's important to realize, really, first of all, you only realize you have the choice when you realize you are not the story. Because otherwise,
right,
it doesn't feel authentic. Because it's like, I am not good enough, but I will pretend I am.
Right.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. It's the worst. And it doesn't produce joy. So if someone just wanted to absolutely say, no, I do have to, here's an example. I work with a number of men, and men in my culture here in America are very driven by a model that tells them about being strong and being successful and providing for their family and being, tough. And it leads them to be separated from their emotions. It leads them to be separated from their body. It leads them to be separated from their intuition because so much of their energy is directed outward. And when those men come to see me and they say, I don't understand, I've been doing all the stuff. I'm miserable. I feel terrible. I don't get it. Then the next question becomes, well, where is joy for you? What's meaningful for you? And for a while they stumble around and say, I don't even know where joy is. And so if we can get to the place where they can identify what the joy is, or where their hope is, or where love is, or where meaning is, then the next thing is to do exactly what you just said. Is there a way for you to see what, and I call it a role you've been playing?
Yeah.
Like the suit that you talked about putting on every morning. Is there a role that you've been playing because this role has been telling you who you're supposed to be, and this role has been it's been serving the story, the big story, the belief, and this role has been telling you who you are, and tell me how it feels to play this role. And almost every man I've ever worked with, and women can do this too, but the reason I'm mentioning it with men is because men are so identified in my culture with their roles, the roles that they play, that when a man says, my role is to be the provider, and then the next question is, well, what does it feel like to be the provider? Oh, it's terrible. Man,
yeah.
This is a role that you're playing. And then we do the story work, which is to say, where did this role come from? Who modeled that for you? How did that work in your family of origin? When did you see other people living out that role? How did they like it? Did your father, did he enjoy playing that role? No, he hated it. And you signed on for the same role, and then they're like, man, what am I doing? Well, what else were you supposed to do? That's what was modeled for you. It's the story that you were given about who you were supposed to be.
Yeah. It's because you said driven, and I always use it as, we think we are driven, but we're really being driven. And we're being driven by that story.
Yes.
And so life becomes really, you're unconscious and you're acting out the role that you mentioned before. And we usually don't enjoy the role.
No. And it's like you were saying a minute ago, if I take that moment of awareness and choice before I put on my persona for the day, before I put on my suit for the day, before I put on my role for the day, somewhere along the way, when we were 3 or 5 or 7 or 10, something clicked in here that said, this is who I am.
Yeah.
We forgot that it's a role that we play. We forgot that I'm going to be big and strong. I'm a woman who says, I'm going to be a strong woman in the world. That's going to be my definition of myself. And she didn't realize that somewhere along the way, she was saying no to many other possibilities because she had identified herself with that role. I am the strong one. And then she forgot. And then 10 years or 20 years or 30 years goes by. And then that's not working anymore. And so then all I have to do is say, so the role of the strong woman, how is that going for you? How does it feel? Is it joyful? Is it fulfilling? And that's when it starts to unravel. Do you know what I mean? Like the sense of, well, this can't be all there is. Then we can start to take it apart.
That is a common theme that you mentioned, not enjoying it. Maybe that's a sign like whenever we don't enjoy ourselves, whenever we are frustrated and angry, there's maybe a moment to pause and see, okay, I'm in the story.
Yes. I was just writing down one of the other really smart things that you said a minute ago, and I want to write that one too. If we don't enjoy.
Guys, write this down. Apparently it's smart.
I just think that that's a really great way to see whether it's working or not. And by the way, if it's working and if you're fulfilled and if you find joy in your life, nothing needs to happen. You're okay. Keep going. But many, many people are not okay. They're not satisfied. They're not peaceful. And so something is not connecting. Something's not in alignment.
Yeah. The way I've saw it myself is like, you are not the story.
Right.
But the story that you tell determines your life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm in the process of getting it. My roles will change. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a businessman. I do this and that. But nothing in this world stays fixed. It's a cosmic soup that is constantly being stirred.
Yes.
And if we hold on to the role, we are bound to suffer. Because one day, whether you're beautiful, one day you're not going to be beautiful. One day you're not going to be able to do your job. But you are not that story. You're not the role. You're the being behind that.
Yes. You're the observer. You're the soul within. You're the consciousness within. And it's funny too, because I'm finishing a book about this model, about story work and story healing. And I had to do a lot of thinking and real digging about the question of what I wanted to say about consciousness, because it's such a huge question. You know, it's so big and it's so.
And how do you grasp it?
Right. I mean, it's right. Again, I'm in the story. How do I even see the story? How do I know I'm in the story? Because I'm part of the story and the story is running how I think. And the same thing is being human, right? And so I've gone to the wisdom traditions in every spiritual tradition I could find. And I've gone to the people who are doing amazing work with neuroplasticity and psychedelics and research on consciousness and the hard problem of consciousness and philosophy and psychology and so on and so on and so on. And there's a little piece in the book that's about the idea of who we really, really are. But ultimately, I just say there is a you that's in there that's not the story. And that's who we're most interested in, because that's as far as I can go. There's a lot of philosophy I do not understand. So I'm not even going to try and be a proponent of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. If you can see the story, you are not the story.
Yes.
And how do you invite people to see that they are not the story and that they are the observer, the consciousness, whatever word we want to use? How do you invite people to see that?
If I just say it up front, right? If I just make the argument, and I say on my social media reel every day, hello, beautiful, amazing soul having a human experience, right? Which is suggesting this, not separation, but this different aspects of our human experience, our different aspects of who we are. If I say up front, this role this story you're in, that's not who you are. It doesn't get anywhere. It has to come from their process of saying, wait a minute, this doesn't fit anymore. When they say, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I didn't have to play this role this whole time? I don't know. You chose to play this role the whole time. What do you want to do with that? Like, what is the you who is not the strong one or the reformer or the provider or whatever? There is a you that is not any of those things. To your point, no role is permanent. Everything is going to shift. Everything is going to change. Who we are changes. These bodies change. This is not the same body I had a week ago. Like all of the cells that have died and been reborn and changed and regenerated themselves, much less 10 years ago, much less 20 or 40 years ago. I'm 64 now. My body has changed so many ways and so many times, and so have my thoughts, and so have my feelings. I'm not my body. I'm not my feelings. I'm not my thoughts. I'm something else that's embodying this experience. Well, the roles are the same way, as you said. They're going to change. Of course, they're going to change. And had one group of things that I identified myself with in my 20s, and then another in my 30s, and another when I was 10, and another when people can see that they're not those things, because those things change. And if they can see that something doesn't fit and it doesn't feel right, I just don't want to be married to him anymore. Okay? Now
it's like a crack in the worldview. That's what we're looking for, really.
Yes. Yes. Richard Rohr, the Franciscan priest, calls it the cracking of the cosmic egg. Do you know what I mean? Like we've opened something. And I think that the crack in the worldview simply gives us the ability to see a little bit differently. It doesn't have to be that we throw everything out. It might be that we just see a little bit differently. Do you know what I mean? Hasn't that happened for you?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of gradual shifts. But here's what I think is difficult, and that's what a lot of people struggle with. The story, we said everything changes, but it feels like the story is very consistent. Like it's been with me my entire life, right? And we tell the story again, and the next day you wake up, oh God, another day, and I haven't done this yet. And you continue it, and you continue it. So it feels like I've always been this way. This is who I am.
Oh my gosh. You're right. That's part, I had not thought of it in those terms. That makes total sense. Part of why we think the story is true, or we identify so closely with the story, is because it's been self-repeating, self-reinforcing. It's been being retold over and over and over. And it's not just being told to us. We're telling it to ourselves. And we're telling it to other people too, right? We're all participating in it because it's the water we swim in. So it seems like it's always been the case because it seems like it's been there forever. But I mean, 150 years ago, there was no story like the story that we have now. 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 500 years ago. I mean, if we were to drop into medieval Europe, if we could, if we were in some place where people were building castles and it was the 12th century, if we could get past the language barrier, we still could not have a conversation with them about what the meaning of life is or what's going on. How long ago were time zones invented? I mean, my goodness, most of what we think is real is just stuff that got invented pretty recently. But it's what we grew up with, so it's what we see and it's what we think.
Yeah, and it feels real to us. Because and especially because you mentioned the voice in the head. And I think that's the crux of the whole matter. I compare it to, when people watch football games or something and they're like, great game, but can these commentators shut up once in a while? They're so terrible. And I'm like, we have a commentator in our head 24/7. Well, you sleep. He leaves you alone when you sleep, at least. Commentating on your life. And it's like, look, that's not good enough. Oh, you screwed up again. Typical, right?
All the time.
And this voice makes the story feel very consistent. So
because the story, the voice is in service to the story, correct?
Right.
The voice is helping to reinforce the story all the time.
And we think the voice in our head is us, so we think we're the story. How would you advise people to step out of that voice, out of that constant narration? What is your technique to get out of there?
That's a great question. Thank you. The American poet, 20th century poet and translator Robert Bly, who was a brilliant thinker and writer, and he wrote the book Iron John that had a lot to do with the men's movement and so on. In a talk that he gave at a poetry festival, he said, I grew up on a farm. My father was alcoholic. And by the time he has a really great book called A Little Book on the Human Shadow. I really recommend it. And he said, by the time I graduated from high school, I was a professional liar. Everything everybody asked me, I would give like the right answer. How are things on the farm? Oh, it's great, And he said, if I were going to tell the truth, it would be like, but I couldn't tell the truth because it wasn't safe. I didn't even know what the truth was. So he said, I graduated from high school, went off to college, learned how to speak like an educated person. And then I went into the whole literary world and I did that whole thing. And he said, and then something just didn't work anymore. And I moved back out to the farm. And I said, and he had clearly some sort of breakdown and spiritual awakening. And he said, I went back out to the farm and I said, I'm going to sit here outside in the field and look at this tree until an honest thought comes to me. And he said, I sat there and sat there and sat there. And finally I thought, wow, this is a beautiful tree. And he said, that's when I began to really go within and learn to tell the truth. And Robert Bly says that poetry is about telling the truth. For me, true spirituality is about telling the truth. It's about being willing to go within and say, what am I really, really feeling? So how do we get past that voice in our head? One way to get past the voice in our head is to notice the voice in our head from a distance. And one of the ways that I have a tool that I use for doing that, picture of myself at 9 years old, and I keep it, and look how cute he is. Oh my gosh, he's adorable.
Yeah.
And I keep it right here above my desk. And the reason is because I've noticed when I notice what the voice in my head says, like I've paid attention to it all day long. Every time you hear the critical voice in your head, or every time you hear the warning voice in your head, or every time you hear the voice in your head that says you did this wrong, just write down what it says. Just notice and see if there are patterns there. It's him. Much of the voice in my head is myself at 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And it sounds like a child. It sounds like a child who's worried about getting in trouble. And I realize that there is a part of me that is wanting me not to get hurt and wanting me not to get embarrassed because he got hurt and he got embarrassed because I grew up in a very violent, unsafe family. And I grew up in a very strict culture, religious culture, and American culture in the 1960s and 70s. And so when I hear, we screwed that up, we're bad, that's how a child speaks. I can separate myself from the critical voice partly by saying, who's talking? And I don't know if you're aware of parts of the work where people identify different parts of their psyche, like who's talking? Is it my inner critic? Is it my inner warrior? Is my inner guardian? That can be really helpful. Whatever we can do to identify who's talking. Who am I talking to? It's not me. It's not the witness within me. It's not the observer within me. It's not the eternal peace that's wise and measured and centered within me. It's something that's worried. If it's something that's worried, it's not me.
It reminded me of sometimes, I'm unconscious and I'm ranting like, this is, I shouldn't have done anything. Who am I talking to? I already know. I know this went wrong, right? Why do I keep telling myself? I know.
Right.
Or that person, he shouldn't have treated me that way. I know. I was there. I don't need to be told. And then you repeat it again and again. It's a thought loop.
Yeah.
That you get trapped in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who am I talking to?
So what is the purpose of the thought loop? What's it trying to accomplish? What's its job?
Yeah. Because it's not going anywhere.
It's not accomplishing anything, but we do this for some reason. Our minds, not our brains is just an organ, but the mind, the way our consciousness processes, it's trying to keep us from what it perceives as danger. And so if it can say over and over again, they shouldn't have done that. That wasn't fair. We messed this up. They messed this up. Everything's bad. This isn't good. It's like a warning signal. Watch out, watch out, watch out. Don't do that again. Don't say that again. Don't be in the presence of those people again. Don't make that same move again. It's just a warning system. But the problem with the warning system is and I say this in the book, I'm convinced that this part of us that's so worried all the time, all it wants to do is make sure we survive. I don't think it's interested in whether we thrive or not.
Yeah.
It just wants to keep us away from danger, in which case that's a small life. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it is. I'm going to, because you said small life, and because you start every one of your social media messages, you started with, hello, beautiful, gorgeous human beings spiritual beings having a human experience. And can you tell me more about, maybe it's also a story, or how does it inform your daily life? How does it change your approach to living? What does it mean to you to be here on earth in this body?
It's wonderful. Thank you for that question. It's great. When I started having spiritual awakenings in my knees and feet, part of what I began to, and I came from a really traditional background, and I began to look at the mystics, including Jesus and Mary Magdalene and the people in the Jewish scriptures. And then I started reading the Buddhist scriptures and teachings. And then I started reading Hindu teachings and yogis and Yogananda and Maharaji. And then I started reading, I really fell in love with Native American and other indigenous spirituality traditions and models. And what I found over and over was that when we let go of the thing that's on the surface and we go deeper, if we're willing to go into a place that's more in our body and that's more in our heart and less in our mind and what it is that we're trying to manage all the time. The idea for people all over the world for thousands of years is when I am willing to step away from the busyness of my life, whatever that is, and go into the place that is, I mean, that's why we love to go to the ocean. It's why we love to go to the mountains. It's why we love to take a walk in the park. It's why we love to take a walk in the woods. It's why we sometimes need to just go be by ourselves. We go on a silent retreat. We go and meditate, whatever the tool is. It's not about saying that our life is bad. It's about saying that something is missing. For me, it's very important for me to remember that the world that I'm in and that I'm participating in, and I have email, and I have errands to run, and I have gas to put in the car, and I have things to handle, and I have a meeting that I'm getting ready for, and all that stuff, that's only part of who I am. It's not who I am. And I think that most of us think that that exterior world and how we feel about it is who we are.
Yeah.
But every meaningful tradition of going to a deeper place and a wiser place says that that's not, it may be part of who you are because it's what's immediate and it's loud and it insists on our attention.
It's very loud.
It's very loud. But there is a deeper part of us that is always ready to step forward and to meet us if we will move toward it. Always. It's always there. So for me, I feel like a lot of the time in my daily life, I'm toggling back and forth between the inner and the outer, between the external and the internal, and it's not that they're in conflict with each other. It's just that it takes, you were talking about being aware of the suit I'm putting on in the morning. Like it just takes awareness to say, she wanted that to be ready for the meeting. That's not how I handled it. How do I feel about what it is that's happening in this interaction? And what is the deeper thing that I really long for in this moment? Like, what is it that I want to be creating right now? What is it that I believe is true for me right now? And also, I'll also add for me, I mean, I'm just here for now. Like the eternal part of me is having the Rick Diamond experience. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on here that I don't even know anything about because it's a mystery, because it's big, because it's cosmic, because it's connected to all that is. I'm only seeing a little tiny slip of it, a sliver of it here and there. So I'm trying to hold it as loosely as possible.
Yeah. I feel it helps really because whenever we take life too seriously, we can be sure that we are stuck in a story.
That's a great quote.
Thanks. And the way I phrase it is, like you said, there's this duality. We are human, and there is something more to us. Mm-hmm. And I call it jokingly in this you're part-time human, right? You've been granted like a tourist visa to Earth, and every time you wake up, it's kind of getting renewed.
Yes.
And you're playing this role, and the phone rings, and there's stuff to do, and that is all true. That is part of the story. Mm-hmm. But behind that, there is more. There's the thing experiencing it all, playing it all, and observing the story. And whenever we feel we're having these negative emotions, like we talked before, it's maybe time to look at the being that is witnessing the story, and then we are able to change it. So how do we change? How have you helped people change their stories?
I find, you said a few minutes ago so beautifully, when we realize that we're not the story, when we realize that we are not the story, then there is this other opportunity to say, well, then what do I want? So there's a whole section of the book where I talk about like choosing not just the story, but the adventure. Like, what do I want to learn and grow into and experience that becomes, how do I change? It's not just, now I need to write a new story. If I throw out the old story, but I write a new story and then I'm just living that story, that's still not freedom. That's still being part of a program. I helped design this new program, and then the next thing you know, I've forgotten that it was a story, and now I'm in it because I have to do it now. So for me, it's really about, when I work with people, it's about saying, what is it that you would like to experience more of? What is it that you would like to taste more of? What is it that you'd like to be willing to risk more of and not know necessarily what's going to happen, and then step into this open space? And we have exercises and, there's practices to mindfulness about, this is what I'm feeling in this process. These are things to ask myself as I go through this process. When fear comes up, what does that look like for me? What am I afraid is going to happen? What can I say to my fear to help it understand that I'm on a mission doing something that's big, that's important? So it's really about mindfulness still.
Yeah, and all these techniques, they put a distance between you and the story, you and the emotion.
Yes.
And then we're able to look at it and then maybe choose better.
Right. And whatever we choose, what if we chose something that created more suffering in the short run? At some point, we're going to be able to awaken from that as well. It may take a while. It may be that we're in a loop for a while. I mean, sometimes people stay in something for a while, but I'm convinced that, and I've seen people talk about the idea that we're not on a timeline, we're on a spiral.
Yeah.
And we keep coming around to some of the same lessons, but we're not the same person that we were a year ago or a decade ago. Even if we're in the same circumstance, we're going to see it differently. We are different. So it's all about being willing to keep moving, to keep exploring, to keep experimenting. And when people say, I haven't changed a bit, nothing's working, I say, okay, let's talk about where you were a year ago. Let's talk about where you were 5 years ago. What is different? And of course, so many things are different because they wouldn't be evolving if they weren't asking this question. They're asking this question because they are changing, in which case it's just a question of seeing it.
Yeah. And that is a great way you put it, because many times we think in order to change our lives, everything around us has to change. A new job, a new wife, a new thing, everything new, right?
Right.
But maybe it's only our attitude towards these things, our responses towards the world. Or like you mentioned before, you pause and you ask, what do I want to bring? What do I want to express right now?
Exactly.
So on the surface, like we talked about, it might look the same.
Mm-hmm.
But it just isn't, because you are different and you bring something different to it.
And when I unhook myself from the story, as in, it doesn't mean that I have to leave the place where I am in my life, but it changes how I relate to my internal messaging and the messaging around me. If I unhook from I have to do this, it has to be like this, I have to fulfill this role. If I say, I can still be in this job, I can still be in this marriage, I can still be in this neighborhood, I can still be in this friendship, but I feel freedom to make things different, and then I can allow new possibilities to happen. Everything shifts, even if the external doesn't shift, because not only are we different, but also new things are possible that we didn't think were possible before. That's where real freedom comes from.
Reminds me of two things. I had a thought come up right now where I was like, then we are not using the story as our identity. We're using the story as a tool.
Perfect. Absolutely. And we're using the story as a way of ordering and understanding the choices that we've made so far and how we got to this place. But it doesn't determine what's possible anymore. We're simply using it as a tool. It's not everything. It's just one thing. It's just a part of what we're choosing and how we're moving.
Yeah, like an ever-evolving mask and filter through which we see the world. But ultimately, it's just like the glasses you put on. It helps you see, but it's not you. It's not, and it's going to change. It's just going to change.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And every great story, every great saga, every great hero story, every great adventure is about a hero moving from who they thought they were to who they could be. All of them. And for a while, the hero struggles because they're like, I'm just Harry. I'm not a wizard. And it's all about moving out of, this is who I thought I had to be, into, this is what is possible. And something has to die along the way. So our beliefs or our attachments to how things can or can't be, that we fight, and that's a struggle, and I get it, and that's hard. And when we allow new possibilities, we expand. Like we just do. And then the world is expanding. We think, wow, I didn't know all this stuff was possible. How did this happen? It's because you're letting it be possible.
It's very often when you see people talk about like a rich person or someone very successful, then you go, well, he had these parents, he had this and this. In those circumstances, I would have done the same. It's like, you might have not even have noticed, because it's not the it's how you see through this lens, through, like, we could be in the exact same circumstances. It doesn't really matter. You wouldn't even see the opportunities. It takes a certain story or a mindset to even be able, because that's why no two people walk down the same street. It's the same street, but it's a completely different world.
Absolutely.
And our story is so powerful because it shapes the world we see.
And we're carrying it. We're embodying the story as we are moving through the world, in which case that is the world that we are experiencing, because it's how we see ourselves and the world, in which case there's no two people who are having the same experience ever.
Yeah. And how have you, for instance, or for your clients or for yourself, upgraded how you see, or the glasses or the filters, so you live in a different world? What stories have you told or improved?
I think that one of them, that's a great question. One of them for me personally is that I believed for a long time, because of the story that I had from my upbringing and from my young adult years, that there was only so much happiness that was possible. And I went through a big awakening in my 40s and 50s, in which I started to do men's work, where I talked about, how can I talk about my feelings? And I talked about anger and sadness and grief and guilt, and got to yell and, process. And I'd never done that before. And what I found was, wait a minute, if my capacity to feel gets bigger, could I feel more happiness? Could I feel more joy? And I began to believe that more happiness and more joy were possible, not just in theory, but for me in my life. And I fell in love with an incredible woman, and life got bigger for me.
What was the shift for you, that you were able to say, if I feel all emotions more, even the anger, even the frustration, then I just feel more in general, also the happiness. So I'm embracing all of that.
Yes. The same thing happened. It was connected to my sense of what I believed about God and what I believed about spirituality. I had a belief that was a certain size, and I let that go and said, I don't know that that's what God is like. I don't know if that's what human beings are like. I don't know if that's what the saints and the mystics and the spiritual teachers are like. What if I let that go too? And when I let that go, then my own sense of my own spirituality got wilder. I mean, way wilder. It's like a river flooded, and my spirituality overflowed the banks of the river, and then I could just be big and wild. And again, it was just a question of, this is how much I think is possible, or this is my definition. And when I kind of let that go, then much more became possible, because of course much more is always possible. It's just that we don't see it.
It's like we mentioned the example of clothing before. So your story, you've outgrown the story. The story just didn't contain, you needed a bigger story.
Perfect. Great analogy. Yeah, it's the clothes. It didn't fit. It just didn't fit. And so if we take it off and we let something new happen, my goodness, what's possible then? Holy moly.
Yeah, no. And maybe you've got to be naked for a while and try stuff on.
Here's the thing. Thank you for mentioning that. So you know how a snake sheds its skin?
Mm.
The snake, before it sheds its old skin, grows its new skin. Its new skin is already in place before the old skin is taken off. But a snake has to go through a really vulnerable moment when it starts to peel its old skin off and wriggle out of its old skin that doesn't fit anymore, where it's vulnerable for a minute or a few minutes or however long it takes to shed the old skin. And that's what we feel when we're going through change. that vulnerability. Oh my gosh, will this new skin work? Am I safe? Am I okay? Do I know what I'm doing? And then we look back at the old skin. Once we get out of the old skin and we go look at it and we go, how did I ever fit in there? That never fit me.
Yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing at the moment. Well, we all do, but in this moment, I'm aware of it because I'm going to leave my job. And it's a family business, so it's even a bigger deal. Like the whole identity and everything is tied up to it. And I'm transitioning to something that I'm not really sure what, right? And I move between existential terror and fear and, oh my God, there's so many possibilities out there, right? In between those two things, you're like, because then you don't have a story. You don't have an identity. Like, what do you work? Don't know. And so you don't, because sometimes the story is like, okay, it's, especially in a social context, it's easy. Okay, I have this job, or I have this title. When you have nothing, you're kind of naked and you are vulnerable like the snake, right? You might not like your job, but it's a routine that you go to. It keeps you safe.
It's familiar. Yeah.
And without it, you're like, oh my God. And so, so I'm going through that at the moment. And of course, the old story, like the old job and everything, has a story attached to it. And by leaving that, you leave the story, or you carry it with you and you create something similar, right? So you have to be very conscious of, it's not enough to change the job or the relationship. What is the story that got me into that relationship, into the job in the first place?
Exactly. And when I can see the story that got me into this situation, if I can see that I'm not the story, and I can see what the story told me about myself, then I can do something that's more authentic to where I am headed from here. Even if I can't see it yet. That's one of the things that stops us. Oh my gosh, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how this is going to work. And what I find is if we can just like let go of our death grip on the steering wheel a little bit and uncurl our fingers a little bit and say, okay, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? That help comes. That has been my experience over and over and over. Wisdom comes, friends come, a new map comes, a new possibility shows up. Somebody just pops into your life that says, hey, are you interested in what? I mean, I know that sounds sort of mystical and weird. It happens all the time. When we are willing to let go a little bit, then help will come. And I mean, who knows? Somebody who knows how will show up. It's exciting.
Yeah. What's your, when you say letting go, because we hear that a lot, what's your, I don't want to say technique, but well, let's say technique for letting go, or for letting go of that steering wheel for a bit?
One of the things that I try to do, that I like to do, is I encourage people to say, if this story were not in charge. We don't even have to say if the story's not true. What if we just said the story's not in charge? Or if this story were not all there is? What I would like to see. And if they say, what I'd like to see is not necessarily saying, give me this. It might simply be saying, I'd like to have a job where I'm a little more free. I don't have to know what that is yet. I'd like to have a relationship where I feel a little more myself, where I can be truthful and honest with myself. As we begin to mention the things that might be possible, the old story kind of loses its grip because it had a framework that said, this is all that there can be. And we'll reward you if you follow it, and we'll punish you if you don't. And then the next thing you know, we're in it for 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. Right? So the thing to do is to say, if this weren't the case, what might I like to see as a possibility? And then those possibilities show up.
The image came to me. It's like your joy is calling you and you're walking towards it. But at the same time, in the back, there's something calling it fear maybe. And you want to retreat back to the story. Or like I described right now, the existential terror and the possibilities, right?
Yes.
So you want to go back, you want to expand. And like, when you hear this call of fear, this uncertainty that makes you want to, like the snake, crawl back into the skin.
Right.
How would you handle that? What would you tell your clients? Asking for a friend.
Yeah. I mean, just in theory. I think that the best thing to do when the fear comes up, and this is my practice for myself, is to wait. is just to be still.
Yeah.
When the fear comes up, when the resistance comes, when the part of me that jumps up and says, oh my gosh, no, we're going to mess up. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to do it wrong. The thing to do is just to wait, not hide, not to run backward, not to fix it. Just be still and say, is there some wisdom that I can draw on in this moment within? And it will come. And it may take a lot of guts, it may take a lot of strength to sit and to be still, but it happens all the time because our soul is ready. It's within us. It's ready. It's waiting.
Before you off onto your human adventure, what advice, if you could put something into someone's head, into someone's story to loosen it up a little bit? Because you mentioned before an adventure, and I think it was Helen Keller. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing.
Yeah.
How would you help people embrace that?
One of the most important things that I can do with people, and one of the most important things that people can do, is to feel seen in the midst of their trying to imagine it, trying to conjure it, trying to figure it out, trying to work it out. I've got the fear, I've got the story, I've got the thing, I've got the whatever. And so when I do sessions with people, we spend some time just being in an open space. We meditate, we talk, I look at them, I ask them how they're feeling, I ask them how they're feeling in their body, I ask them what's coming up for them. We create space so that they can feel held and that they can feel seen, as opposed to, I got to figure this out, I got to get this done, I got to know the answer. Like we slow down and slow down and slow down. And then I encourage people to do the same with themselves. It's 5 minutes. It's 10 minutes. Sit, have a cup of tea, journal, meditate, be still, be quiet. Create the space for your nervous system and your body to calm down and be still. And then that opens possibility. And if possible, practice some silence. And we'll sit just and be silent. Even in a Zoom call across, I have clients in Australia, I have clients in the Netherlands, I have clients all over the place on a Zoom call. And I just say, can we just meditate for a minute or two? And we take a breath and we're still. It's not a religious practice. It's not anything fancy.
Call it mental airbags.
Right. It's just about being still. We're just being still. We're just going to be still and let answers or possibilities come up. And they do. Always, always.
Thank you so much.
This is delightful.
It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Do your introduction. That would be so much fun because I love it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the work you're doing to awaken people and to help them with their stories and to help them with reframing how they see themselves in the world. It's so good. I love your social media. I love what you're putting out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and good luck. And as you're going through your transition process, if you need a story healer, you know where to find me. I'm just saying, I'll be happy to help and support you because I'm so happy for you. It's exciting and it's scary and it's big. So yes, go. And so I would say to you, well, beautiful, eternal, powerful soul, having a human experience that is full and meaningful. I wish you peace. Go get them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Told you this was going to be fun.
I knew it.